UFC 255 was a historic night. Not only were both the men's and women's flyweight titles on the line, but for the first time in UFC history, two sisters, Valentina and Antonina Shevchenko, fought on the same card. Let's look at those two flyweight title fights and break them down. Valentina Shevchenko defeated Jennifer Maia by unanimous decision to retain her flyweight belt, but this fight was a lot different than most people thought it was going to go. Jennifer Maia, she was obviously strong on the ground, she's a strong person, and she put a lot of pressure on Shevchenko, and most people thought Shevchenko, this was going to be a straight assassination. She's called the Bullet for a reason, after what she's done to all the past fighters. It wasn't going to be close. She closed a minus 2,000 favorite, the biggest odds gap in the history of the UFC. If Maia won, she would have been the biggest underdog to win. Incredible stuff. And Valentina coming off that knee injury, she said afterwards it was a torn MCL. And she's so quick, like I said, she's a sniper. She punches, she slides out of range and throws a hook over while she's sliding. But it was an interesting strategy because most people knew Jennifer Maia, the only way she was going to get the win is she took her down, held her down, and maybe submitted her. But Valentina was the aggressor with the grappling. She went for the takedown early and went for them often, almost every single round. And you go to that second round, and she was shooting for takedowns, and then Maia actually ended up holding her in the clinch for most of that round. Boy, was she strong. She was doing a great job advancing, and then they went to the ground, and Maia was controlling the other two. A little bit of ground and pound. But, 3, 4, and 5 were all Valentina. It was definitely surprising. She kept initiating the grappling when she probably could have won fairly easy, just picking her apart from the outside like the sniper that she is. But, Maia did have some good moments on the feet, so we got to give her credit on that one. But yeah, just a significantly closer fight than most anticipated. Valentina might be the first one to collect all those little rubies on those brand new UFC Power Ranger belts. But what do you do for her next? There's a lot of contenders. They're talking Lauren Murphy, Jessica Andrade. Maybe you can give her Andrade. That might be an interesting challenge for her. I think most people want to see the Nunes 3 fight. But unfortunately, Nunes has 2 heavier divisions that she's got to worry about. And she just had a kid. So it's definitely an interesting situation to be in. But this was a very good win for her too, because apparently her mom just won some sort of shadow boxing competition. As I mentioned, her sister Antonina won on the prelims. She won it in the co-main event. First time ever 2 sisters competed on the same UFC card, and obviously the first time that 2 sisters won on the same UFC card. Great moment for that family. The Bullet keeps on dominating. The main event had Deiveson Figueiredo defeating Alex Perez via guillotine in the first round to retain his flyweight title. This was his first defense of the title, getting one of those rubies I was just hyping Valentina about. Remember, this was supposed to be Cody Garbrandt's fight. Alex Perez took it. He's the first Contender Series alumni to get this fight. And that's good for him. He seems like a really nice guy, but it's good for the show too. The name suggests contenders, and they're fighting contenders. There's a lot of big names out there, and now one actually realizing a title dream. That's just going to pave the way for a lot more great fighters to come. Now back to the fight. Figueiredo's solid everywhere. He's great on the feet. He's great on the ground. Slick submission skills. Bombs in both hands. Quick, rapid movement. And Perez is a good fighter too. Don't get me wrong, but Figueiredo was going to the body early, and with both guys being so quick, they had some good moments in the scramble. But go back and watch that scramble. It was pretty ridiculous. They were both flying at each other. Figueiredo went to the ground and tried this crazy little leg lock roll. And Perez got caught in that guillotine, and his head was so close to popping out. He just couldn't get it out and was forced to tap. And Figueiredo, if you go back and watch his last couple of fights, and even his earlier fights, he's just, a technical fighter. And then he gets hit once, and his face just drops. He has this, killer look in his eyes where every time he gets hit, his eyes lock in on the opponent. He does not blink at all. His hands go a little bit lower than they probably should. It hasn't mattered yet. And he just stalks his opponent. He's not a volume striker. He's going to pick his shots. Like I said, he's got bombs in both hands. He did that against Joey B. He did that against Perez. And he's going to do that against Brandon Moreno, who's probably next. And he's a future star, that's for sure. If he can learn a little bit of English, he's going to be a huge star in America with the UFC. And like I mentioned, it's got to be Moreno next. Cody Garbrandt, he's a solid fighter, but he's been knocked out a few times. 3 times in a row to be precise. His chin is not holding up these days. You're cutting those 10 extra pounds. It's going to be another TJ situation, and nobody wants to see that. I mean, maybe some haters do, but I personally don't. I don't think Henry Cejudo's ever coming out of retirement for 125. It's got to be Moreno. Dana White's talking about turning them around in the last pay-per-view in December. Seems a bit silly, but hey, what do I know? Dana White cuts the checks. But yeah, great performance by Figueiredo. Perez looks like a stud too. He's definitely going to be back. Give him Royale, who had that rough shoulder pop out in the main event of the prelims. That'll be a good little number 1 contenders type match to do later in 2021, but we'll see what happens next for Figgy. there it is, UFC 255 done. You know, I saw a lot of people complaining about how poor this card was, or how it was going to be before it even happens. I don't know. It's tough to judge a card. A fight is a fight, right? Anybody can have an exciting fight. And yeah, it didn't have the star power, and it's not going to break pay-per-view records. But I thought it was a solid card, prelims all the way through the main card. A lot of good scraps, a lot of good finishes. Definitely a good card. And just speaking about cards, we're down to one left. UFC 256 in December for the year 2020. And then after that, Poirier McGregor. You know, we're looking at Usman Burns maybe. A lot of good stuff coming up. So again, thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.